Hello, everybody. Welcome to Economics with the Honorable David M. Walker. I'm Nick Pallavito. I'll be your host for today's show. And we're going to bring in David Walker, who's the former Comptroller General of the United States, to bring us up to date on what's going on with the war in Iraq. And then we're going to have later on Sasha Starr, who is in our show on the Ukraine Russia front, bring us up to date with the war in the Ukraine that's going on. But first, David M. Walker, the former Comptroller General of the United States, we'll bring him in to see how this war in Iran is affecting the economy. So, David, this is one of these situations which I'm not sure how this war is going to benefit the U.S. economy, but maybe you can give our viewers some good news, bad news, or the truth.
Well, it's not being done for economic reasons. It's being done for security reasons. Security reasons not just for the United States, but security reasons for Israel, for Western Europe, and many other countries, including all our major allies in the Middle East. It started because of concern about Iran's continued efforts to develop a nuclear weapon. That combined with their efforts to enhance their missile capabilities to be able to attack targets thousands of miles away from Iran, and their unwillingness to be able to give up either of those is why we entered the conflict. Israel has clearly taken the lead. If you look at the number of sorties that have taken place, over 15,000, a significant majority of them are by the Israeli Air Force. The United States has, however, been very much engaged. The way things stand right now is obviously on the first day, 50 to 60 of the leadership, including the supreme leader, were killed. Others were wounded. There's been a significant deterioration of their capabilities with regard to missiles, with regard to drones, with regard to communications, with regard to command and control, with regard to air defense. The U.S. and Israel have total air superiority. They can fly with impunity over Iran. Their anti-aircraft systems have been virtually destroyed. Much of their navy has been destroyed. But from an economic standpoint, where we are is the most serious concern has to do with the impeding of oil, natural gas, LNG, and other energy materials out of the Persian Gulf to be distributed around the world. There's not a supply problem per se, but there's a distribution problem. And so there's been a significant increase in gas prices, and in the United States and other places. There's been a significant increase in oil prices as well. And unless and until the traffic starts resuming through the Straits of Hormuz, we can expect that there will continue to be higher gas prices and oil prices. The real issue is what's going to be done to bring this under control. The United States attacked Kharg Island. Kharg Island is part of Iran. It's critically important. It's in the Strait of Hormuz. About 90% of Iran's energy distribution comes out of Kharg Island. And the United States bombed military installations on Kharg Island, and then the U.S. has got to decide whether or not it wants to destroy their oil capabilities on Kharg Island, which would be a devastating impact on Iran, or whether or not they want to take control or something in between with regard to that. But as far as the economic impact, let's talk about some of the big players. The United States obviously has been harmed with regard to energy prices. We're self-sufficient on energy. We don't need energy from the Middle East. On the other hand, there are European countries that do, in particular France, that rely upon energy from the Middle East. There are other countries around the world that are dependent on energy from the Middle East, most prominently China, secondarily India. And China obviously is getting hurt by this, no question about it. India, the administration, meaning the Trump administration, has allowed India to import more oil from Russia, so that they're not adversely affected by what's going on here. At the same point in time, the big winner, quite frankly, is Russia, with a significant increase in oil prices. And since much of the Russian economy is based upon, natural resources, including oil, then they're a big beneficiary of this. With regard to cost of the conflict, it's estimated the United States is spending about $1 to $1.5 billion a day on this conflict. Obviously, that's not helping our deficit and debt situation. It seems like there's never a good time to be able to address that. People here in the States are hopeful that this thing is going to come to an end within the near future. But the real question is, who's going to be in control of Iran? The problem is that when you have large military forces that are controlled by, the ideologues, and that the general population does not have any weapons, then you've got a real challenge as to what can be done to overturn the government. Because this government has had no hesitancy whatsoever to kill tens of thousands of their citizens who protest. And so hopefully the conflict will end soon, but that doesn't mean that you're going to have a change of control in the government anytime soon. And I know everybody hopes and prays that ultimately that will happen, but that's likely to take more time. I'm also interested in hearing what Sasha has to say, because I would say two more things here. One, Ukraine has been very helpful with regard to this conflict. A lot of people don't realize it, but Ukraine has done a tremendous amount with regard to drone technology, and it's been very effective on the battlefield in Ukraine. But in addition to that, it's also now being used to attack Moscow. But Ukraine has been helpful in trying to deal with the drone attacks by Iran in the Middle East. And for that, we are very appreciative. And I'm looking forward to hearing what Sasha has to say about the Ukraine situation, which we hope and pray that will end before too long, but it's drug out much longer than people thought it would.
Yeah, and we're going to bring in Sasha Starr to give us an update about what's happening in Iran. Not Iran,
Ukraine.
Ukraine, yeah, another problem child.
Okay, thank you. First of all, interestingly enough, Trump's reaction on Ukrainians' offer to help was extremely negative. What he said is that Ukraine and Zelensky are the last spots where I would need help. So while all countries in the region asking Ukraine for help, Trump is rejecting outright. The reason for me, first of all, it's a pathological hatred toward Zelensky. Second of all, Americans have their own drones and anti-drones weapons. And of course, in this way, Ukraine could be seen as a competitor. But it's not so. The success of Ukrainians is based on one unique characteristic, that their weapon system, attacking and defensive, they are recording everything what's happened. And in the last 3.5 years, they have recorded. So that's how they are increasing their potent effect in both attack drone system and defensive drone system. And the United States simply doesn't have it, because it haven't fought the drone wars in the last year, 10 years, 100 years, and 1,000 years. So simply, U.S. just doesn't possess what Ukraine has in abundance. That's Uh, I don't know if Trump can understand that, or his advisors are trying to explain it. However, that's the way it is. Ukrainians are so successful now. This year, the drone production will exceed 7 million drones. So they're now using waves of attacking drones against Moscow, not Russia, Moscow. Think about that. So the image of Moscow was in impregnable fortress that even probably nuclear attack will not be able to do anything against Moscow. You don't need nuclear attack. Nuclear attack is a thing of the past. There is no more nuclear attacks in this world because nobody has a power to unleash a nuclear attack. No one, including the United States, by the way. So if that's the case, we're coming now to a situation when Ukrainian war, it will be over soon. The Russia will be asking for settlement, and neither Ukraine nor Russia, maybe Russia does, need U.S. help. Actually, Zelensky is playing a funny game. He says, hey, US, so please, let's resume the negotiations, the peace negotiations, and so on. And in the meantime, he's destroying Moscow. Why does he need peace negotiations? Zelensky knows. It's a politics. It's still trying to play to Trump. But you see, the problem is that Trump is losing on a world stage so badly that I even don't understand why Zelensky would want to be associated with Trump in any way. Because look at now, Trump is asking European countries, G7, to help with the Strait of Hormuz. And you know what? No one moved forward to help him because during the last year, he and J.D. Vance humiliated European countries. They were teaching them what to do and what not to do. The tariffs war. So Europeans got sick and tired of all that. Therefore, there is no response to that. Canada does the same thing, and many other countries. So U.S. looks to me very isolated on the world stage. I don't think that they will be able to conclude this war in Iran unless something happens. And in next almost like 3-4 days is the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, and nobody knows if and when it will be done. And second of all, to get control of the enriched uranium stockpile of I think 440 kilos of enriched uranium. And unless
1,000 pounds, 1,000 pounds.
Okay, 1,000 pounds most likely. So if these two things will not happen really soon, there will be absolutely negative outcome of this war, in my opinion.
There's a lesson from recent history about what it would take to tip over the Iranian regime. A year after the Ayatollahs took over, in 1980, Iraq decided that Iran was in disarray and they mounted a full-scale invasion with 200,000 soldiers, nearly 3,000 tanks, 380 fighter bomber aircraft, and they marched into Iran along a 400-mile front, not dissimilar to the way Russia tried to walk into Ukraine. This did not tip over the regime. And so what we're doing just with bombing is not likely to tip over the regime and cause it to fall.
It's a real challenge. There's no question, Rick. And as you know, Saddam Hussein was a bad guy, but he was a check and balance against Iran.
Yeah, we loved that war. There was the Iraq-Iran war that went on through almost all of the 80s, and the U.S. kind of liked it. I think the U.S. maybe even helped both sides because as long as they were fighting each other, they weren't tearing up the rest of the Mideast.
And one of the results of the Iraq conflict was eliminating a check and balance against Iran because Iraq was a check and balance against Iran. But one of many consequences.
Yeah. Dr. Sharif, you're up. See what's happening in Asia.
This is very crucial moment and very challenging moment. Country like Bangladesh, in South Asia, in Middle East and Saudi Arabia and others. One thing I learned from this Pot TV's economic shows that USA do not have long-term plan. And as USA do not have long-term plan, maybe Trump, what he is doing, there is no planning, there is no real executions. It's look like Trump depend on three kind of things. Number one, uh, we are observing from there that Western world has uh, iron domes and all of the brilliant instrument and all of the things. It's look like it's not real because how Iran is protecting, even Iran is compared to US and Israel, they are very small. But it's look like the technological advancement and other things, it's actually questionable. Secondly, propaganda. This is very, very problematic issues for the propaganda through the Western world as well as this Asian or Muslim media, as well as in social media. Everybody come to bring the lot of issues. I want to give thanks to Pot TV because Pot TV want to bring real information, real things, and I like it. That's why at this show I share with all of our countries, policymaker, ministers, and everyone because it has some reality. But propaganda create a massive problem. Even our country, energy problem, food crisis, job losses, many things is happening. It's really bad situation. Number three, which is very, very important for me, that investing, as we are discussing for economy, investing money, how USA people utilizing their money, that is very, very important. I think that this is USA hard-earned money, but USA has massive economic challenges right now. They have $38 trillion debt and other things. As you are discussing how this US people money, this Trump administration investing for all of the wire and unplanned things, and which is really problematic. Many of my good friends from Israel, from USA, they are in trouble in Middle East. Many of my good friends from around the world, they are in trouble. In Bangladesh, I am in trouble. My life is in trouble. So what's the solution we have, Honorable David Walker?
Well, let me ask you this, Dr. Sharif. My understanding is that Bangladesh imports a lot of oil from the Middle East.
90%.
And it's
90%.
not just energy. It's also issues like fertilizer.
Yeah.
We're getting into the growing season here soon, if you will. So it's not just the energy thing. What's the impact been on Bangladesh so far with regard to the conflict in the Middle East?
Stop. Everything is stopped. Our energy sectors, every day we have a challenge. Our transportation industry, everything stops. Our manufacturing industry, our garments industries, everything has problem. Our banking industries, it has problem. Many of our people work in Middle East. They lose their job. Many Bangladeshi died because of this war. In Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in Bahrain, many areas Bangladeshi people died. In UAE. So I do not know what we are doing as a global leaders, or is it the way of running a powerful country, or we are actually bring people for power to destroy our life, to destroy this world, to destroy this economy. It's horrible.
I know. Yeah.
Horrible.
Countries that are reliant upon energy from the Middle East are by far the most adversely affected by this. And Bangladesh is one. And, as I said before, Trump made an accommodation with India to allow them to be able to import additional energy from Russia. I'm not sure whether or not that's been the case with Bangladesh, but it's something that Bangladesh clearly ought to pursue. If he's willing to do it for India, he ought to consider doing it for Bangladesh. Look, this issue, several things. One, the reason this conflict had occurred is for security reasons, not for economic reasons. The economic issue was a risk. It's obviously had an adverse economic impact with regard to energy prices and related products. It's obviously had an adverse impact with regard to countries that are reliant upon Middle Eastern energy sources in particular. And frankly, I think a lot of people don't understand that the American people are overwhelmingly concerned with domestic issues. They're not concerned, rightly or wrongly, with international issues. And I think if the straits aren't opened in the near future, such that you can end up bringing down energy prices, then I think the Republicans could end up paying a big price in the midterm elections. Trump can't run for re-election for president. He's not on the ballot in November either, but in the entire House of Representatives is on the ballot, and 1/3 of the Senate is on the ballot, and both houses are subject to potential change in control. And if that happens, then Trump, there will effectively be a huge check on Trump's power and influence domestically. And Sasha's already talked about the price has been paid somewhat already with regard to international relations because of how he's gone about doing certain things.
I would like to mention something that there is a theory that Trump got involved in this war simply because there were numerous calculations that he was aware of that midterm election is lost for Republicans. So he decided to take a gamble that in case if he is successful, that could change outlook for the midterm election. So that's one explanation of that. Now, what is the percentage of Americans today support the invasion? Because at the beginning of invasion, it was maybe 20%. Maybe it's a little bit more today. I wouldn't be surprised, because once you get already involved in war, okay, you might as well win it. That was happening in Russia. Russian people were extremely negative about the starting of the war against Ukraine. But as it went along, so the beginning of a reasoning of the war, it was almost lost. But now, okay, what can we do? Now our country is at war. If that's the case, we might as well win it. But it's changing right now with Ukraine being so successful militarily against Russians. So I think Russians now probably will change their outlook. And I'm surprised only by one thing, that U.S. lifted sanctions of oil trade from Russia when all the other 6 members of G7 were absolutely against it. So he is trying to help Russians who are providing intelligence to Iran to keep hitting American targets. And he is Shans Zelensky and his office to help with the drones technology. No, he's the last one that we need help from. So this is something, it's nothing to do with overall concept of this war. It's something to do with his personality. It's very dominating personality, but it all works while he is winning. And it will hit him badly if he will start losing. And his record is a record of a loser. The bankruptcies, the failed businesses, the many things that are known to America. It's not a secret. But they hated Biden and Kamala so much that they decided, okay, so we will have con man, we will have a criminal, but somehow it will work out. Maybe it will, maybe it will not. But we want to get rid of Biden and Kamala anyway. So
Sasha,
now it's coming payback time.
Sasha, as has been said by others, you can't beat somebody with nobody. And the truth is, in the last election, Biden and Kamala were nobodies.
Yeah,
and that's why Trump won. I mean, Biden was obviously weak, was not in a position to be able to run for another 4 years. Kamala, in my opinion, has nothing to do with her race or her gender, was the weakest candidate the Democrats have put up in 50 years. Okay. And so that's why Trump won. Okay. First, we don't consider this to be an invasion because there's no troops on the ground. Typically, when you're talking about an invasion, it involves troops on the ground. Clearly, that's the case in Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine. There's no question. This is an air campaign, largely, okay? Whether it be with regard to aircraft or whether it be with regard to missiles. There are many things that you can do with an air campaign. You can do a lot of destruction. There's no question about it. But there's a limit as to what you can do with an air campaign. And we're seeing that with regard to whether or not you can end up toppling the regime. And I think the goals now are moving away from that. Okay, I'm not sure that that was ever a goal, but it's clearly something now that people are saying the Iranian people are going to have to do that. We're just trying to take out the missile capabilities, the nuclear program, the Navy, certain things that clearly they've been largely successful with. There's no question about that. But we'll see where we go from here, because Americans' patience wanes pretty quickly, especially when it hits them in the pocketbook.
True. Jacoby?
I'll disagree with you on 2 points. I don't want to relitigate the 2024 because I'll disagree with you there. Because the only switch that happened was the first assassination attempt. That was when Trump's poll numbers really bounced. Outside of that, he was actually starting to lose badly in the polls. And then the same thing with, the main point I think with the Iran, it's a war. I mean, they're putting in Lebanon. Israel has troops on the ground in Lebanon now. Also, we're putting troops on the ground. The Marines are going there now. So we're pretty much having an open-ended war. So we can't say it's an air campaign anymore. And there has been.
That's not Iran, Jacoby. We don't have troops on the ground in Iran.
Oh, they're deploying.
No, they've deployed troops. They've
Not
deployed
in
Marines.
Iran.
They're
They
on
will
a
be-
ship
They're
to Iran right now.
They're on a ship. They're not in Iran.
No, that's Dave. I know you're trying to play this.
I just know more about this than you do.
But that's a system. That are they going to Iran? Yes.
Are they going to the region? Yes.
So again, troops are headed on the ground. They're troops from Israel and Lebanon.
No.
No, they just announced that today,
They're
Dave.
being deployed to the region they may
No,
or
Dave,
may
listen to
not
what.
have
No, Dave. Israel deployed troops in Lebanon. They
That's
announced
Israel.
that.
That's not the United States.
But what I'm saying, Dave, they deployed Israel. We went to war with Israel, and the U.S. went to war with Iran. Israel deployed troops in Lebanon. So we have to account for that. We can't just wash our hands because we went to war with this nation and us. We're partners in this right now. So we can't just wash our hands and say that didn't happen. So
But as we
Israel
sit right now,
Israel
as we
has
sit
placed
today, we
troops
have
in
nobody
Lebanon.
in Iran.
The
As we sit
Marines right now
there
are
no
headed to
US
the
troops
Marines are headed to that
on
region,
in Iran.
They're
Dave,
headed to the
May not
region.
ever be.
Dave. The Marines are headed there now.
Toby, I have security clearances that you'll never have. So don't try
I
to
get
tell me
it,
what's going
Dave.
on.
Throw
Okay?
all the
Don't try to-
high level stuff you want to.
You're speculating.
But Dave,
You're just
Yeah,
speculating.
I agree. That's,
Oh,
David, we
That's
just
speculating.
literally agreed that troops are headed to that region right now. We literally
yeah, but
already
that
have
doesn't
troops
mean
in the
they're
region,
in
Jacoby.
Iran.
We
This
already
is-
have
this is
troops
the
in the region.
strike.
We have troops all over the
Heading to
region.
the region is different.
We have troops all over that region.
Yeah.
And we have for decades.
did we
That's
just
not
deploy
the-
troops that way, David?
What?
Yeah.
Did we just deploy Marines that way? Yes. It has been announced.
But they're
We
not
were sitting
in
here
Iran.
Toby, you ought to look up
games.
the word deployed because you got it wrong. Go ahead.
Dear God, I did not get
Yeah.
it wrong, David. I said deploy.
Can I say something? Can I say something?
Yeah,
Just a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a solution. Honorable David Walker, your show actually very, very helpful, very informative. And as we have many Western intellectual like Kimberly and Nick Palveda and all of you, I have a solution and proposal for you. Why don't we build up a coalitions from all over the world? Coalition for intellectual discussion as well as sharing the solutions. Let's say what Bangladesh can do in this challenging moment, what Ukraine can do for developing better strategy. What Nepal can do to solve any complex problems. Maybe we need to. I always believe community what Pot TV has, and I want to give a special thanks to Nick Palveda and all of his colleagues how they build up this community last 6-7 years. It's amazing, excellent resources you have. My students actually get a lot of information through this Honorable David Walker shows. So if we can build up a coalition in between us and around 200 countries, this coalition can work like a positive group of people who can help each other grow together and make a meaningful contribution. Otherwise, we always can blame Iran, we can blame Bangladesh, you can blame USA and all of the things. There is no solutions. This is my proposal to Honorable David Walker. You can take that.
I'm all for partnering for progress. And I will tell you that I'm very disappointed in the United Nations. I was chairman of the audit committee for the United Nations. I was elected, to that position by the General Assembly and by my colleagues. I served for 5 years, and that institution has potential, but it needs fundamental reforms because the way that it's structured right now, while it was intended to be a body that would mobilize, cooperation around the world to address issues like we're dealing with right now, the way that it's structured, especially with regard to the Security Council, where one country of the 5 permanent members can veto any action, is basically neuters the United Nations. No country, individual country, including the United States, should be able to veto a proposed action by the Security Council. And that's just one of many reforms that are needed at the UN if we ever want it to be a viable institution to promote world peace and cooperation.
Thank you. It's a progression and a productive idea. I'm just thinking, Nick Palveda, you can take the leads, or Kimberly, how we can build up a better coalition.
We can broadcast to the United Nations this show. Dr.
We can
Sri.
broadcast anywhere.
Yeah, I know, but the United Nations has their own website that they actually take our material. So I'll send this on to the UN and see if it doesn't end up in File 13, which a lot of institutions, unfortunately, as you know,
Come on, Nick.
Is that the round file, Nick? Is that the round file?
Circular. That's
That's the file when you don't want to do anything and you
I understand.
Dave,
You stick it in this file and you ignore it, which is
I want to
happens a lot.
I want to ask a question here. First off, David, thank you for always being here and doing this, because I think that it is information that some people get to hear that I get told all the time, I had no idea. I had no idea that's how that worked. And actually, our first interview with David gets played by people quite often, especially the one when we went to the Federal Reserve. But what I am curious about is all I hear in my head over and over, just echoing like this chamber, is Trump's voice going, I'm going to stop the wars. Any president that starts a war with Iran is stupid. I hear this until I have nightmares. And here we are, not only in war, but we have killed many civilians. When I am aware of, thanks to the work I have done over the years, working with a lot of the military with some of my patents, is we have pinpoint precision weapons, and we have the means to track most of them to know where they've hit. And this lack of taking and accepting consequences is really disturbing to me. Whether you hit the school on purpose or not, somebody needs to get fired, because that was a poor hit, and somebody needs to own up. But what I want to ask is how is this going to really help us economically? Or what was the plan to make right? You say security, I say BS, because this has just made us bigger targets from Middle Eastern people who are going to hate us for a very, very long time. I've canceled all flights. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to CERAWeek. That's going to be too dangerous, because that is the world leaders for gas, oil, and energy. I'm not putting my neck in danger. There's nothing worth it. But I don't feel safe anymore. The SAFE Act isn't a safe act. There's nothing making my life safer in that act. So what's going to change to make our lives safer and better?
Well, first, this conflict is about security. It's not about economics for the United States. Okay? We are not dependent upon the Middle East for energy. We are self-sufficient for energy now. We haven't always been that way, but we are now. And I don't think it's going to help us economically. But that's not why the conflict occurred. It occurred for security reasons. Secondly, with regard to the Middle East is now aligned against Iran. That was not the case before this conflict. And the reason the Middle East is aligned against Iran is because Iran chose to launch drones and missiles against Middle Eastern countries, including civilian populations, hotels, and other, and their oil installations. And so Iran has now effectively isolated itself from the rest of the region. In the past, there were a number of Middle Eastern countries that were against Iran privately, but not publicly. But now you find that most are against Iran both publicly and privately. But again, I don't think this is going to help us economically. In fact, it's hurting us in the short term economically. There's no question about that. And Americans care a lot more about their pocketbook and about domestic and economic issues than they do foreign policy and conflicts.
Just really quickly, David, on that same thought, and I was reading because I've tried to follow things that are going on in the continent of Africa as well, because I've got friends from various countries there. I just wanted your take on this, because there are some major oil companies that are in Africa, like Nigeria and Ghana and a couple of others, but even the top African energy regulator said that if fuel shortages and the current prices persist, it can knock 3 percentage points off the economic growth that they were expecting in the continent of Africa in those 54 countries. I think it's roughly 54, because earlier the African Development Bank, the Regional Development Bank, had forecast last November that Africa's economy would expand by 4.3% in 2026. So it sounds like this war could be impacting a major continent as well. And I just wanted your take on that. I know we talk about the economy of the U.S., but we are a world network. So I just wanted your take on that.
Well, there's two things. One, I want to come back to something, though, that Kimberly said. One of the things I find, Kim, is a lot of people in government, especially politicians, they say they're for transparency and accountability, and that's a bunch of BS. They're not for transparency and accountability when it comes to things that relate to them. By the way, stay tuned for more on that in my next book. But there clearly should be more transparency and accountability with regard to targeting, especially with regard to that school and the 140 people who died, most of whom were children as a result of that. We need to be transparent, and people need to be held accountable for that. If it was us, it looks like it may have been us, but we need to know the answer and not try to play rope-a-dope on that. With regard to economic impact, this is a global impact. Mm-hmm. This is a global impact. Okay, energy prices are determined in the global market. All right, and there's two issues: do you have adequate supply, or what do you pay for the supply that you have? Okay, countries that have to import energy obviously are more adversely affected than the countries that don't have to import energy, because they may have a supply problem, which can end up undercutting their ability to be able to manufacture, to be able to engage in certain agricultural activities, whatever it might be. Okay.
And David,
hold on. Even if you don't have a supply problem, like the United States, like Canada, like Russia, countries that are self-sufficient with regard to energy, you got a price problem. You have a price problem, and that will have a drag on the economy, and it will also adversely affect inflation.
Yeah, David, just really quickly, if I could just follow up really quickly, and then I'm gonna be quiet because I've been not talking about, I've been listening.
Go
But
ahead.
they said that one of the leaders of one of the African banks said that the war should serve as a wake up call for the continent. He added calling for an investment in alternative energy sources, which I know something that even Steve Rao has been about, even here in the U.S., such as hydrogen and methanol, and more use of electric vehicles. Because he said that they are over reliant on oil, and these wars are not ending soon. And I agree with him on that. It doesn't seem like these wars are ending soon. I mean, I'm 63, will be 64 in July, and it seems like these wars have been going my entire life.
David, I would like to mention something. There
Sure.
is in a war something what is called a fog of war.
Yeah.
Now, let me address that. So your point is that the U.S. started this war for security reasons. It's very vague, actually, point, because security against whom? Against Iran? Iran ever threatened America? Absolutely not. It doesn't have capacity and probably will never have in the next 500 years capacity to hurt America. So this is, I'm surprised to hear it from you more than once. Now, let's talk about really what's happening. The largest military hospital in Europe, if not the world, is in Germany, which is devoted completely to needs of American soldiers in Europe and in that region. So in the last several days, they are putting ads that the blood is needed of all kinds from German population. What does it tell you? Why all of a sudden the military hospital needs so much blood?
All
The
right.
only
Well,
one answer is
several things. Number one, surely you know that for 47 years, Iran has talked about death to Israel, death to America. For 47 years. Okay.
so it's time now.
Hold
Okay.
on. As of today, they do not have a nuclear weapon. And there's unanimity among the West and the Middle East that they should never have a nuclear weapon. Okay. Secondly, as of today, they do not have the ability to have an intercontinental ballistic missile that can reach the United States, but they were dedicated to create one, just as North Korea has already created one, and they do have nuclear weapons. And so therefore, rightly or wrongly, the reason that we entered the conflict is because of security reasons, not economic reasons. In fact, as I said before, it's hurting us economically. It's not helping us economically, and it's hurting other people economically, those that are dependent upon Middle Eastern oil much more than anybody else, but if you will. So on the blood, I can't comment on that specifically, Sasha. It's a good point that you raised. I will say this. My wife and I are going to be given blood within the next couple of weeks because there's a blood shortage in the United States and has been for a while. All right. So I don't know why they're doing that in Germany, but I know that some of these blood shortages exist in the United States, and they have nothing to do with the military conflict. But
well, David, you know very well that the injured American soldiers are being treated in Germany, not in US.
Absolutely.
So that takes off all the questions: why Germany, why now, and so on. We know why Germany, we know why now. What I'm saying is that there are already information about hundreds of US soldiers being maimed in this war, and they are on their way to Germany to be treated and dealt with. So this, you will not find it in New York Times, you will not find it in Wall Street Journal, but this is well-known information from very trusted sources, trust me, that I've uncovered that, and I will be more than happy to hear that somebody will say that this is all information or AI or anything like that. I don't think so.
So just to kind of reiterate what Sasha was saying about the security issue, the reason why the security issue, or saying that it's a security issue, doesn't seem valid, because one, North Korea did not have a nuclear weapon. Number two, North Korea did, or I'm sorry, Iran didn't have a nuclear weapon, didn't have any means to actually get that nuclear weapon if there were some chance that it made one yesterday to get it to the U.S. Didn't have any ballistic missiles so it wasn't an imminent threat coming to the U.S. So North Korea is more of a imminent threat. North Korea has literally made videos of blowing up and bombing different areas within the U.S. more so than Iran has. So both have yelled death to America. Both have claimed that we want to kill America. So there have been other countries that have done that also. So are we now saying because we are so finicky and so trigger happy that if we hear that, now we're going to bomb everybody and anybody? That's why the security risk doesn't seem valid in that sense. But I wanted to get to where Mark was with talking about the economics of war, because right now with the economics of war being so high, gas prices and so on and so forth, a lot of the answers and a lot of the reasons why are the same reasons why people hated COVID. COVID shut down the world. COVID was a global issue. Inflation, everything else was a global issue. Same way this is. Oil was shut down, but then had to be restarted because once the world opened up, that's what created a big oil crisis and jacked up the prices as well as the Russian invasion of Ukraine. That jacked up the prices too. So a lot of the same sayings that are happening now, a lot of the things that are trying to justify the economic strain sound like they're coming out of COVID. And those same excuses were the reasons why people hated Biden. The reasons why the vote went the way that it did is because of the agitation and anger that was built up. So my guess is that's going to be the same thing, because MAGA will never leave Trump. MAGA will stay with Trump regardless. But the independents right now feel burned the same way they did in COVID, if you listen to what they're saying.
All right, two things. One, I will agree with you on one thing and disagree with you on another. First, I'll start with the agreement. I will agree this was not an imminent threat to the United States. I agree with that, okay? At the same point in time, where I disagree with you is we made a mistake with regard to North Korea. And I don't think it's a good idea to make the same mistake twice. We allowed North Korea to develop a capability and to build nuclear weapons. We allowed North Korea the ability to build intercontinental ballistic missiles. That was a mistake. And I personally don't think it would have been a good idea to allow Iran to do the same thing.
But you know
With
what?
that, though, I mean, are we going to bomb them now? We're just bombing anybody that we're. No. My point is,
we haven't heard from Steve yet.
But my point being is that if anybody, say if Libya comes up and says something, or if the Sudan says something, are we just now going to preemptively just bomb people? Because then we're just the bullies on the block doing everything else that Russia's doing to Ukraine.
No, you act like we're the only country that doesn't want. Hold on, can I finish? You act like we're the only country that does not want Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
I'm not,
or a missile capability. We're not. Most of the world is with us.
I've never stated that, Dave, and you trying to put that on me is actually a deflection on what my point actually is. My point being is that does the world want the Sudan to get a nuclear weapon and blow up everybody around them just because? Let's start from a basis. The point is that Russia didn't want Ukraine to join the UN and have all the protections. Russia felt very pressured on that. That was their excuse.
They're members of the UN.
Let me finish, please. I'm trying to get to my point. So Russia came up with an excuse of why they didn't want the Ukraine to do something. So now we came up with an excuse of why we didn't want Iran to do something. Even though, yes, the world, everybody hates that. We all agree there. So that argument is not where I'm going. What I'm saying is, are we going to pinpoint other nations and do the exact same?
I would like to mention something that you just mentioned North Korea. North Korea acquired nuclear capabilities and intercontinental missiles. And guess what? Because of this, nobody is even thinking about attacking North Korea. Everybody hates this regime, but nobody will touch that regime. So that, in my opinion, may just as well justify Iranian inspirations to get nuclear weapons and intercontinental missiles. So, in fact, there is a case that they could be just justified in their aspiration. Okay, so you attacked them in June and you somewhat moved them backwards, probably a few years, and so on. But guess what? Few months later, now there is almost imminent threat against the United States. How come when they were, according to Trump, it was obliterated? Obliterated means nothing left, completely destroyed. Oh, guess what? 8 months later, there is a threat. They can create nuclear bombs. They can do this and that. No, this is childish approach. There is no truth in any of this statement. He keeps lying through his teeth, and this is, in my opinion, it's a war on behalf of Netanyahu. I would like to remind you this the first war a few months ago started on June 13th. What's happened on June 13th? There were a day when Netanyahu had to testify in court under the oath. And that never happened because the war started on exactly that day, June 13th. And the US later on participated in that. So now, several months later, there is again testimony of Netanyahu is being arranged. Well, guess what? They bombed the headquarters of Iranian leadership and destroyed Khomeini and 40 of his people, relatives, and so on. And the United States is playing along with that. There are no benefits to United States of America whatsoever. In fact, there will be an unheard of probably a sequence of events which already started. All the donors of the Middle East, they're now questioning that they were provided, Trump and his family, with billions and hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars, thinking that they're buying protection. So they're buying protection and they're paying this money. Well, they pay this money or some of this money, but there is no protection. They didn't buy anything. So now, guess what? They're negotiating directly with Iran. So trying to help themselves because America can't. America cannot even defend their military bases. That's why so many people are being transported to Germany, evacuated, save their lives. Now, there's something else.
The Pentagon has said that we have about 150 wounded.
It was a week ago. Sorry,
We have
David. It was 1 week ago.
we have 13 killed and about 150 wounded. We'll see what happens. But
It was a week ago.
I've already said that I do not believe there was an imminent threat against the United States with regard to Iran. I've already conceded that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why we're debating that. I mean,
No, we are not debating at all. What I'm debating is that the status of U.S. in the world, the so-called soft power, which you explained many times on this show, it's all being thrown away in the garbage. The status of the United States is as low as ever before. In 250 years, its history, it's never been so low. The European allies sick and tired of being lectured how to conduct their policies and what to do. And the tariffs didn't help much. And now these Gulf states, now they are questioning the ability of the United States to defend them. And in fact, what I will not be surprised is they will politely ask U.S. take away all their military bases and installations because it's a liability. It's not helping the states.
Frankly, we'd love to get rid of our bases in the Middle East.
Please do so.
We'd love to get out of the Middle East. You're not going to get a lot of debate on that.
You do not do that because there is too much oil over there. So you do not do that.
Sasha,
We don't need the oil.
all right? We don't need their oil. We don't
China
need
needs
their oil.
I do
Okay?
think
Yeah.
the one
China needs their oil.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe we should not.
Bangladesh
protect-
Well, you reminded them
Africa needs their oil.
that
We
the
don't need their oil.
Strait of Hormuz is open for China. Guess what? The Chinese oil is moving through Strait of
Better
Hormuz.
double check your
But-
facts
Please
because
do.
but
Yeah.
because the answer is it's either all or nothing.
No.
I do
The oil which is paid in yuan will be moving through Strait of Hormuz. Those oil, this oil that is paid in US dollars, this is not going to move through the Strait of Hormuz.
I
And
do
think
think-
about that. You
We'll
will
see.
continue to
We'll
your
see.
bombing.
We'll see.
Let's say you kill half of the Iranian population. Let's see, instead of 90,000
Yeah,
million, there is
do
only
think-
45 million. Do you think
We
it will
haven't
help
heard
you
from-
to open
We don't
Strait
target
of Hormuz?
civilians.
Absolutely not.
We don't.
We haven't
target
heard from
civilians.
Steve yet. Let's see if Steve
Well,
has
I just-
something.
I just wanted to thank David Walker for being here today, and I'll come back next week to share more insights. I waited a long time; I couldn't get a word in, but real quickly, yeah, I think David, this has been very interesting. One thing that Fareed Zakaria brought up yesterday is how it's now forcing a conversation on energy security. Whether other nations are going to have to start looking at other energy sources. So I think that's something interesting. I think it's also going to be interesting to see how this is going to affect, India. I know they were supposed to, the ambassador was supposed to come to North Carolina this week, and I was going to participate in a roundtable. That's been put off. So I think the whole world order, and the final point is, and I thought about you yesterday when you talked about America superpower. One of the things Zakaria said in his opening is that how Britain, was a huge superpower, and they ended up losing their edge because they were kind of in a similar situation that, we might be taking care of all these other places of the world, and we may eventually lose our own focus as a country. Just food for thought. We can talk about it next time. I just wanted to get that thought out there.
You got to learn from history and learn from others, and we're not very good at that.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
We're
But,
not
but
very good at that.
we've learned when our time is out, and our
Yeah,
time is
thank
out
you,
now.
everybody.
So,
Appreciate it.
thank
care,
everybody in the United
Thank
States
you.
from around the world, and we'll see you next week on.
Take care,
Economics
Jacoby.
Around the
All right.
World.
Bye-bye.
Bye.